Welcome into the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. We got Eric calling in from Boston. We got Rudo hosting. We're joined by our guest from Mile High Hockey, Evan Liu. Did I say your last name right?
Lou.
I probably messed
Close enough.
Lou? Yeah, all right. Well, you're the 800,000th name I've pronounced wrong, so you're in good company. Talking Avalanche roster a little bit today, but before we get into that, the news of the day, the Avs/Colorado Eagles officially named Dan Heinold the associate coach for the Colorado Eagles. Currently Aaron Sneekloth, their head coach. I don't really know how much this actually means organizationally, but Eric, Dan Heinold's from your generation, so what do you have to say about it?
Great kid. Danny was up and coming when I was playing here. He was a draft pick when I was there in '96, and so was with him in training camp and for a few training camps. Then I got traded, but anyway, Danny ended up playing in Hershey and obviously making his way to the Avs lineup, and then winning the cup in 01. Great kid, great person, happy-go-lucky guy. People tend to forget, 01 Cup when you had Forsberg going down, and their second line was Danny Heinold, Ville Nieminen, and Chris Drury. I mean, no offense to anybody, but that's not ended up beating the powerhouse New Jersey Devils, right? You know what I mean? And the LA Kings too, because you got to remember Forsberg was gone after the second round. So Danny was awesome.
Backpack job is what that was.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, Drury was awesome too. Drew was awesome, and everyone was great. I mean, Hattie was sick and unreal. Ray and their decor was amazing, but Danny was a big piece of that. He was a good team guy, good locker room guy. Got into coaching, which I always thought he would, because that's his personality. And been around NDTP with the young kids, and he's been in. Obviously, the NHL as an assistant coach, and now you got, a fitting job coming back to Colorado. We won a cup, and I think it's going to be good for him. I think it's going to be good for Sneekloth to get somebody like that. He lost Connor Walchuk. Connor was great too, old school, and then some experience there that behind the bench and as playing days. So it's going to be good. I like the hiring, and I think Danny's going to be great.
Evan, I know you aren't old enough probably to quite get to the Dan Heinold years, but when did you start following the Avs closely?
Oh, gosh. It was probably when I moved to Colorado. Sorry for all of the non-natives out there. But that was in like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
I want to say like 5 months old when Dan Heinold was part of that 2001 winning Stanley Cup
alive,
championship
though,
team.
it counts.
I was alive, it counts. But, while I don't know too much about like the Eagles organization and whatnot, it's definitely a good thing that they are having some familiar faces at least come into the lineup. Obviously, Peter Budaj left.
Yep.
Now Pavel Francouz is joining the organization too, and he'll be helping out with that. And just getting familiar faces, I guess, within the system. I think that's really good, especially for the Eagles and, looking to develop some of these prospects. He'll be a good face to be around for sure, I can imagine.
Yep.
And shout out to you too, Casey. Good to see you.
All right. So that's the news of the day. Dan Heinold back in with the Colorado Eagles. Associate head coach is a weird position. Sometimes that means he's the heir apparent and could be the Eagles head coach very soon. Sometimes that's a role he could stay in for a handful of years and maybe move on. We kind of just have to wait and see how things play out with that. But for the Avs and the main topic of today, we are going to get into the Avs roster conversation, how they want to organize their lineup, starting with the newest addition to the Avs, and Kevin Mandolese is their third goaltender. Eric, I know you and Megan talked about it a little bit yesterday. Is the conclusion you guys come to that he is the third goaltender? Let's start there.
Well, here's what I'll say. He's from my hometown, which is awesome. Blainville, Quebec. That's a small town. That's where I'm from. But I'm not too sure. Here's what I said yesterday is if they're trying to breathe a little easier, make, like as an organization right now, July 17th, whatever it is it 17th or Yeah,
It
July
is the
17th.
17th. Yep.
Yeah, breathe a little easier, feel a little more secure with what's in the, you got obviously Georgie, and then you got Eustace, and then Trent Miner is going to get an opportunity as he should. We talked about it. He should get some starts, and that's his time now. They re-signed him, knowing that hey, at the end of the day, it's his time to go. I mean, it's not like you re-sign somewhere to go back to the Utah and the ECHL and stuff like that. You re-sign there because you feel that the kid can give you starts, and then as a player, you feel that you want to get starts. Um, Obviously, there's I don't want to butcher his name again, but Barzewski, right? On an
Yeah.
American League
Yeah.
deal. So that's probably going to be your guy. That's going to be like Trent was, like going to the Utah
Yeah.
affiliation and man, Alicia, when you think about it, there's not a lot of experience there. I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that doesn't have a lot of NHL experience. Doesn't have a lot of American League experience. Was I mean, I don't know. Last year, I didn't do a deep dive, but he was in the ACHL for a couple of games. Was that an injury? Assignment maybe, but he played well in the playoffs. Now, if you're asking me as a fan, yeah, I like it. There's competition. You got guys in there. Go fight for the net. Go see what's going on, and that brings the best out of guys that way. You know what I mean? Now, with that said, on the flip side of things, if you're asking me if I was working with the Avs, which we all know I'm not, but if I'm working with the team, do I feel comfortable that that's my third guy? No, I'm not comfortable. I'm just being brutally honest. Like, for me, a third guy is, again, I'm going to use the profile like a Colin Delia, Martin Jones, or guys that have had the experience, guys that have some games under their belt. So that's why in my mind I don't think that they're done. Maybe there's just nothing available right now on the market and on the trade market. But then again, waivers will come around in September and October, and I think we'll see if I'm right with this point right now.
3 NHL games not enough for you?
That's my point.
Yeah.
And again, I'm all for youth. You know that. Like, I'm good. Like, I'm not that guy. It just. But when shit hits the fan, and I just would feel a little more comfortable. Like if there was a little more experience in there. And then again, on the flip side, I'll be honest. I just said it. I love the competition. It brings the best out of those guys down there. Go fight. Go see what you got. And maybe that's the plan. And then come November, you see like, yeah, okay, we got to protect ourselves a little bit better now. Who knows? Again, there's always guys on waivers. If I'm the Avalanche this summer, you nitpick the rosters, you look and you see, and maybe that's what they've done. And there's just not much more than, and I'm not downplaying mentally. So maybe he's going to end up being awesome. That's awesome. But if you just look on paper, I would just like a little more experience for that third goalie position.
So I see this two ways. Firstly, when you're looking to go get a third goaltender, in a perfect world, he doesn't even ever suit up for your NHL lineup. Now, that's not super realistic, but what might be a bit realistic is how many games is that guy really going to play? You're going out and getting a guy that is going to mostly sit on your bench in the NHL unless things have really gone badly and you've injured both your starter and your backup. And that's where I'm kind of okay with someone like this as an option, because it gives you a buffer. Someone like Trent Miner can get starts in the AHL while he's sitting in the backup role in the NHL if someone does get hurt. The flip side of that is, over the past 5 years, the Avs have had their third or beyond goaltender start multiple games every single year. And that's maybe where I see where Eric is coming from a little bit more. But
yeah, I think you said it perfectly right. If you've got some major problems if you are playing him, if you're playing your third goaltender consistently. And I'm with Eric here. I mean, 3 NHL games, great. His first game was a 48 save shutout against the New York Islanders, which looks great on paper, but at the same time, I think he got blown out the other 2 games. So a little bit,
be friendly with the mic. Yeah,
a little bit hard to read. I think he's definitely more of an AHL, ECHL guy, and it's going to be interesting to see if he is really the third goaltender, or if they do ride with Annunen as the backup. I'm not really sure where they go with that. Because, I mean, as you said, Eric, you know, with waivers coming up and you have guys like Martin Jones, you know, that could be on waivers coming to Colorado, you also have to realize that the Avs are still cap crunched and having to deal with that as well. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where that all kind of unfolds. I would like that Annunen would be the backup, but I don't know if that will actually happen or not.
The problem with the waivers conversation for the Avs, not just the cap you mentioned, but just to spell it out, if you claim someone on waivers, they have to be on your NHL roster for a minimum of 30 days. Or you can just waive them again and they can get claimed by the team that waived them initially. But the Avs would essentially have to run 3 goalies unless they want to just YOLO with Justus Annunen and hope he goes through waivers and doesn't get claimed, which I wouldn't do if I were them. But you know, maybe they're confident he can get through. I don't know.
Maybe they go bring back Jonas Johansson again for like the fifth time on waivers.
Hey, I'm here for it. That works fine with me. My problem is now.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Like Justus, no way, Justus. Justus gets claimed 100%. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So waivers is tough then.
Yeah. No, it's tough. What I'm saying again, you go through training camp. There's an injury. You know, like again, we never talk about injuries, but they're a big part of it, you know? And maybe at that time, it's like, okay, really? Is this what we're going with? We might have to do a waiver claim. And, you know, one of the, you know, let's say, I knock on wood, somebody's out for a month, and then you reevaluate it. That's what I meant by that. You know, like, of course, you're right. If you would take a guy on waivers, he has to be on your roster. So, Martin Jones, and that's why waivers are tricky in training camp, because usually nobody's injured, everybody's good, and you know, when you send a guy down, the odds are he's going to go through, even as a forward, not just as a goalie or as a D. You know what I mean? And that's why the quicker you send guys down, sometimes the quicker, the better it is that the odds they go down. You know, before all the preseason start happening. You know what I mean? And they only gave me 1 game, and then they sent me down. Yeah, well, exactly, because they didn't want to lose you. They wanted you down there, right, as an insurance policy. So again, it's tricky. I just, you know, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But you're right. Justus is not, unlike other years, he's not going down because he would 100% get claimed.
And a question in the Toyota chat here from Casey asking about Mandolese potentially sitting behind Minor. I do not think so. I don't think there's any world where that happens for 2 reasons. One, the one I already mentioned. Any injury call-up is mostly to have a guy just sit on the bench, at least initially. I think they want Minor to start in the AHL if that's the situation. And 2, for as little experience as Mandolese has, Minor has less.
Right.
So
the Avs are collecting goaltenders like Infinity Stones.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Nabokov's agent's comments too about him wanting to come over. I mean, then you kind of have to deal with that. I don't really see how Nabokov would fit in. I feel like he might be like 4th goaltender.
I think he probably
ECHL.
jumps the line. If he comes over, I think he's your AHL starter right away.
AHL starter?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that being a possibility too. I'm not really sure.
Not even a skill-wise thing. It's just if the Russians are coming over, you got to give them a little something, or they're going to just go back. So,
fair point.
He's their first pick too. You know, he's their first pick. I mean, I don't care. Not a first rounder, but their first pick. So you know what? They believe in him. I told you the other day, I've never seen him play. I have no idea. You know, I don't know. Who knows? You know, but he must be good. And you know, it'd be interesting to see. I'd love to see him over here. It'd be awesome. You know, and maybe that's all part of it. That's why I said
the Mandolese deal would look really weird if he does come over this year. But
it would, yeah.
Anyway, we will get into the Avs' actual roster construction in just a second here. But before we do that, the future might be bright for the Avs in goal, whether it be Nabokov, Minor, or any of these other guys you want to talk about. So make sure you're getting your Shady Rays. Go get some over at ShadyRays.com. Given 5 stars by over 300,000 people. Hundreds of different choices to choose from, including different color polarizations. If you want to rep some Avs colors or maybe some other team colors, you can do that with the polarized lenses. I don't know. What colors are there? Like, what would you call Broncos colors in polarized? This is just orange. I guess it's just orange. I was trying to think of like a cool color, but
sunset.
Yeah,
orange. There you
right,
go.
exactly. I couldn't come up with a good one. You got me covered. Go check them out. Again, use code DNVR when you purchase over at ShadyRays.com to get 35% off your pair of sunglasses. And the coolest part is, if you don't like them, you lose them, or you break them in the first 30 days, Shady Rays will replace them completely for free. So get over there, go try yourself some sunglasses with Shady Rays, and make sure you're looking good this summer. Don't get sunburned like Eric did out there in the sun in Boston.
The official Shady Rays website calls it infrared.
Infrared. There you go. All right. Way cooler than any color I would have been able to come up with. And once you got your shades on, make sure you're checking out all of the bets over at Bet365. When you go over there, they have over 10,000 boosts every single month to jump on, including the DNVR bet that we throw up there that you can ride with us on a bunch of different stuff. Of course, tons of other options to bet on as well. You know me, I like video games. I'm always trying to get in on their esports bets, but it's got that too. It's got real sports. It's got the Olympics betting coming up. Put it all on America over however many golds they think. America's winning them all. Confirmed. Easy. No cap. Go get with Bet365 today with the DNVR365 code, and when you sign up with that code, you'll get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 on anything with them. Of course, when you do gamble with Bet365, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. I want to stick with the goalies for just a second, because of last year, Alexander Georgiev played the most games of any goalie in the NHL. There was a lot of talk about maybe fatigue was some of the issue, especially down the stretch of the regular season where he really struggled. Realistically, going into this year, what should be the games played targets for Georgiev and then backup third string, whoever the other Avs goaltenders end up being?
I feel like an ideal target would be like 55 games.
Okay.
But I also would not be surprised to see the Avs go down this route again of playing Georgiev for 60, 65, 70 games. Because they just don't have trust in Annunen or whoever it might be, behind him. And, I mean, you're exactly right. It did lead to that fatigue that you're talking about and that game one massacre, for lack of a better term, against the Jets. But then he turned it around brilliantly, right? I mean,
he ended up fine.
Yeah, it ended up just fine. So I still have faith in him. He's still going to be one of the better goaltenders across the league this year. It's just a matter of, will they trust the people behind him to give him a night or two off?
Yeah.
I hate giving numbers, and I know it's changed. I know it's changed over the years, and I was telling Rudo the other day, like, gone are those days of right? I remember I played with freaking Grant Fuhrer. Like, he played 77 games, I think, the year before in St. Louis. I mean, those days are over. And I remember Patty was a player coming in, and he'd take the calendar right there in September, and then he'd be circling the games that, okay, I'll take this one off, that one off, that one. You know what I mean? I get it. It's a demanding position. A lot more into it now, and I'm not Neanderthal, where it's okay, I don't mind it. I agree. Last year I was arguing with you guys all the time. I was like, I don't mind when he plays that many games. That's fine, And but I do believe it has changed. I do believe that in order to be more efficient, yeah, I agree. 55-25, 55-27. I just hope Eustace gets in there, and I think everybody's going to benefit from it. And again, I don't know. I mean, are we going to see a tandem? Who knows, right? I don't know.
I don't think we make it that far, but
no.
I'm just saying. No, but only time will tell. I mean, who knows? I love Eustace Hannon, so I mean, that's, for me, the sky's the limit with him, and we'll see what happens. But if it's 55-27, fine.
I kind of lean towards your thinking of why it should be at least to that level. Is the Avs have, for their own sake, they need to figure out what Justus Annunen is fully in the NHL. As much as it is protecting Georgiev, Annunen's on a 2-year very cheap deal. There's a very real possibility that they don't end up with Georgiev after the end of this year, and maybe the tandem is not this year, but the next year with Annunen and whoever they go out and get for that second spot. That makes sense to me. And you can't walk into next year without at least getting a 25-game sample size of Annunen, I think. So both sides, protecting Georgiev and really giving Annunen an opportunity to prove himself. It's just a struggle for me to see Georgiev get more than 60 this year. I know Bednar loves going with his starter as much as possible, but I just don't think the Avs can do it this year.
I mean, you're exactly right, though, about Annunen. He hasn't really gotten his chance yet, right? And he's still trying to figure out what exactly he is. I thought he was going to be the backup going into last year. I mean, he impressed in preseason. I thought he did enough.
Yeah, we all did, and then the Prosvetov thing happened.
I know.
And
Again, collecting goaltenders like Infinity Stones. I do hope that he at least gets a chance,
Yeah.
you know. And I'd have to go back and go look at how many games he actually played with the Avs last year, but I doubt it was more than 10 or even 5, probably, for that matter.
I think it was actually like 11.
Was it really?
I want
man.
to say. He started playing a good bit more at the end, but that I might be overestimating.
Regardless, though, I mean, it's not a big enough, I guess, sample size to see what he's capable of. And he's been, you know, kind of up and down with the Eagles,
Yep.
you know, for forever. And, you know, has he reached his ceiling at that point? Like, you don't really know, I guess. And I'm with you, Eric. I do hope that you know, he can just keep going up, right? That would be phenomenal. Because it'd be great for everybody going into next year, in particular, when Georgiev might not be with them anymore. So, not really sure.
Ended up playing 14 games, just to run you down Annanen's numbers really quick. In those 14, he went 8-4, only started 12 of them, so 2 are in relief. 8-4-1, had 1 OT loss, 928 save percentage, and a 225 goals against average. So pretty darn good numbers. And I know he's a backup, he's playing weaker teams, but if that doesn't earn you more, I don't know what else you can do, to be honest.
If I'm not mistaken, he got a shutout against Chicago too, right?
Yep, that is
I can remember that
correct.
happening. Yeah.
2 had. Was his other shutout also against Chicago?
I think
Yeah.
it was like 2 in like 5 days or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, you
So-
get shittier games. I mean, you get shittier opponents, but you also get, again, it goes it's shit ice, meaning you get the 3 and 4, you get the
Yep.
back to back. You know, so your team is more likely to lay an egg compared to a regular game. You know what I mean? So, yeah, you get weaker opponents, you know, technically, but also you get shittier ice. You know what I mean? I mean, your team might not be ready. I thought he was good. I really thought he was coming on. And that's the decision they made after the trade deadline when they couldn't get anybody on. They said it. They tried. They couldn't find anyone. And they're like, might as well. And part of it was might as well go see what Eustace has, you know, because they hadn't seen it. But what I like about Eustace is it's not like it's not a draft pick from last year. You know, this has been years. He's homegrown. He's developing. He's been in the American League as a starter. He's played some games. You know, he comes from Finland. He comes over here to North America. He's been North Americanized now. He's used to the rinks. He's right. You know, he's ready to see what he can do. You know, I think he's ready to see what is his ceiling in the NHL. You know, some might say it's a backup, and it could be. I mean, who knows, right? Time will tell. But I think there's more to him. I think there's more to him, and I think, again, time will tell on that side as well.
I hope the Avs find out one way or another. We do have to move on to their defense organizationally. Obviously, the top is obvious. Cale Makar is going to play 24-plus minutes a night, every single night on your top pair. There's no questions about that. But you could start asking questions as soon as the number 2 spot. Now, no one would complain about Devon Toews next to Cale Makar. Arguably, in my opinion, that's what they should do. Would either of you consider moving Devon Toews away from Cale Makar? We're going to have this conversation at the top of the Avs forward core too. Do you split up the talent to get a little bit more even keel across the Avs defense?
My gut reaction says no, because I think that like the chemistry that they've built in the past is really successful.
Sure.
We saw that with Druin and McKinnon. I know we're kind of jumping ahead there, but
Yeah.
that's just part of it, right?
Yep.
And I think that it's just better for both guys if they're together, right? And when you look at the second pair of Girard and Manson, I feel like that's a pretty good pair too when both are healthy. They kind of offset each other pretty good, I would say.
Yep.
Versus, if Girard is moving up with Makar, that's it can be a little odd from time to time there, where they've had their difficulties on the ice together. Not taken away from any of their individual talents, of course, but I think that it's just better with Toews and Makar together.
I would tend to agree. Eric, same boat. Put the best together.
Yeah, I've always been that way. I've always been like that. I don't mind to just stack everything up. You know what I mean? Because guys like that, like if they can control a game, odds are you're going to control the game. With Toews and Makar on the ice, you should be able to control the game. Makar alone he's so special. You know what I mean? And Devon is so special in the way that he is so consistent. You know what I mean? And he's so safe, and reliable. Not that Kale's not, but it just makes them to be such a special pair. And you got to remember too, we're not part of those conversations. And I'm not saying guys have demands, but damn well he's asking, like, hey, if I'm going to re-sign here for 7 years, is the plan for me to be with Kale? And I'll do anything for the team. You know what I mean? But I do love playing with them, and those are the conversations that take place before you do sign, and you give away your free agency right to signing with the team that Devon has been with and decided to stick around and stay with. So I remember Joe back then saying, he loved playing with Tanguay and Hayduk, and you know what I mean. And all of a sudden you start tinkering with stuff, and then it's like, buddy, I stayed here to play with those guys. You know what I mean? Like, and all of a sudden, no, I got to play with Rudo or Evan or Eric. It's like, what? You know what I mean? That's not what I signed up for. You know what I mean? Not that guys are prima donnas or, you know what I mean? But it is part of the conversation. So I would keep them together. And again, Manson and I think Manson and Girard's a great pair. It is. Are they perfect? No, nobody's perfect. We all saw even this year with Kale at times he's not perfect, and even though I still qualify him as the best player in the world, you know what I mean? But you're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And, I would just keep, on paper. And I think he's just, as a coaching staff, they're just going to be drawn back. It's like a magnet, right? You're just, even if you want to separate them, they'll just always get back to being together. And I think it's just a winning combination.
How nice is it that you can have an imperfect season and be a Norris Trophy finalist? Must be nice for Kale. The bottom two pairs, then, if we're putting Kale and Toews on the top pair, one, are you comfortable with the bottom pairing of DeHaan and Brandstrom together as two guys that have never been in the Avs systems before? Would there be some growing pains there? Do you think Bednar might try and flip-flop some of those bottom pairing guys early in the season to get those guys adjusted or sheltered a little bit? Or do you think they just run it?
I didn't think about them maybe moving a Girard or a Manson down to kind of pair them with one another, because you're right, it is going to be a very interesting sort of dynamic with those two guys. And I would hope that maybe Sam Malinsky could also maybe make a run for it. Maybe he can come in from time to time and help out. It's going to
be a camp battle for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a big camp battle, and maybe Malinsky can come in for like a game or two, and
sure.
he can kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, show the ropes of this sort of defensive system that the Avs do use.
Yep.
Because DeHaan and Brandstrom aren't not the most exciting defenders in the world, right? They're like Jack Johnson light, it kind of feels like. But with Bednar in the system of wanting his defenders to jump in and help out on offense, jump in on the play, Malinsky's a lot better at that than I would say either of those two guys are. So maybe a pairing there on that front for a couple of games here and there could also help them. But if the two of them are together, come opening night, that is certainly going to be a watch for sure.
Yeah, DeHaan's got so much experience. You know what I mean? It's not worried about him, and even Brandstrom to a certain extent. Brandstrom, high-profile pick. He's younger than, and I love Sam Malinsky. I do. You guys know that. But I don't mind battling. I don't mind competition. I love internal competition. Brings the best out of everyone. So for me, it's be out there and show that you belong and that you should be there. Make decisions. If it means that Gerard gets put with somebody else, and Brandstrom, they put you with Manson or whatever it is. There's always some meshing part. That's why there's preseason games. All of a sudden, you put a pair together, they just mesh. That's just how it works. And there's other pairs that you put them together, it just doesn't mesh. It's just a disaster, right? And then obviously you got the lefty righty. Lefty and the righty. Who knows what's going to happen? But you got Brandstrom can play the left or right, correct? And does Dahan can play both, right? Or
Yeah,
so you got guys. Yeah, that's been part of it. Brandstrom's younger than Malinsky, and I like
Yep.
Sam, but Brandstrom is this guy can skate. He's a poor man Sam Girard. I mean, I've always written reports about him that way. That's for me. It's his game's very similar. Just European kid that came over, high profile, and ended up in the American League. Wasn't easy. Usually first rounders, sometimes they don't get it. They get on the silver platter. His was a little different. He got traded, part of that Stone deal, right? And then goes to a different organization. But he's going to surprise a lot of people. This guy can play. He's not the biggest guy, but he can play. He's certainly not a pushover in the sense that, you won't make the – no, he's going to be there. And I do believe Sam will play a lot more games than he did last year. You need 7 guys. There's always injuries. There's always something. But at the end of the day, Rudo knows what I say all the time. Make them make decisions. I don't care if it's rookie camp or training camp. As a veteran player, because I'll qualify Brandstrom and Dahan and, even Sam now, because he's not, he's got some experience, behind him. Like, make them make decisions. Make coaching staff make decisions and force them to play you. And there's no such thing as I didn't get my chance. At the end of the day, create your own chance. And when it comes, it might not come right away. You better be ready. And that's the toughest thing to do as a professional athlete, is to stay ready when things don't go your way in a short span. There, you got to be ready. And somebody's going to be disappointed. Somebody's going to be the 7th that there's no injury. That's just life. It's numbers. But make sure you're ready to go when your numbers call.
I would go one step even further than you. I think if things really go well for Brandstrom, I would drop the poor man's. I think he could be Sam Girard for the Colorado Avalanche, like almost 1-to-1. Things have to go well. If things don't go well, then yeah, it's going to be a different story. But we will get a little more into the defense before we get into the forwards. But we're all driven by the search for better. When it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. You can ditch all the busy work. You can use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with your candidates faster. And 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the fastest quality, the highest even quality matches compared to other job sites. So according to a recent Indeed survey, they are the best option out there with all of those visitors and matching potential. Of course, if you are a listener of this show, you can get a $75 sponsored job credit with Indeed to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, that's Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed. And once you've got all your positions hired up through Indeed, sit back, relax, enjoy your evening, get a beer that helps with the chilling. Go get Coors Light. It's the beer I reach for when I want to chill. The mountains literally turn blue, so you can get it. It chills. It's cold. Yeah, very funny. I know. I'm hilarious. I get it. No, but Coors Light, of course, it's Colorado beer here. It's great for drinking it just about any time, whether you're chilling at the DNVR bar or you're chilling at home. Maybe you're out on a picnic with friends, whatever it might be. You don't even have to go get Coors Light. You can go to CoorsLight.com/DNVR today, and Instacart can get it delivered right to your front door, wherever that might be. So go check them out. Go get yourself a Coors Light, brewed right here in Golden, Colorado. Please party responsibly. Coors Brewing Company. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast. One last thing I want to ask you guys about the defense. The penalty kill. We know Manson will be on it. We know Girard will be on it. I think it's pretty easy to assume Dahan will be on it. Who takes that fourth penalty killing D spot on the regular? Is it Brandstrom? Is it one of Makar and Toews? How do you organize that penalty kill?
I feel like it would be Makar. I mean, just knowing how last year went with the penalty kill, and again relying on your top guys. And Makar, as great as a forward as he is, and as a defender, he's also a great defender. I would hope that's not the case, but I can also, I think that's a pretty good possibility, at least, of happening.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, those guys want to get on the ice too. And as much as people say, like, I remember Joe back then always saying, like, hey, I want to kill. You know what I mean? I want to kill, I want to kill, I want to kill. Because they don't like to sit on the bench. They're not used to that. And I tell you, Rudo, you know that. It's so freaking hard to play when you don't play a lot, because you sit for a certain amount of time. So you'll see it a lot in the game. You get 2-3 penalties in a row. If you don't kill, nice.
2-3 penalties in a row is different, though. They're going to rotate all 6 in that situation.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but I do think, in a nutshell, like, Makar's always going to have his spot. I mean, again, he doesn't. You can bring his minutes down. You know what I mean? Like on the PK. You know what I mean? But it all depends on guys like Brandstrom. If all of a sudden they go into the Avs system and the way Prater and those guys kill penalties, he might be a perfect fit. Then you're like, we have no choice. We have to play this guy. You know what I mean? Because he's shown to us that he can be the guy. So I do believe everyone's going to get a fair shake a little bit. I do believe Kale's always going to get and Devontae, they'll get a little bit of time there. But I'd like to bring their minutes down a little bit on the PK. I do. You know what I mean? I at some point, it's a long year, and it adds up. And I think that's where, if you have adequate people, this is where you can shave off a little bit of time on your top guys like that.
That's my problem with Kale specifically. Is would you rather have Kale have a 40-second PK shift, or would you rather keep him out there for more of the power play where he regularly pulls himself off 30 seconds into the thing? For me, that's an easy. I'd rather have him spend more time on the power play. But as you mentioned, Brandstrom, not really a ton of experience penalty killing, even though he does have pretty good defensive numbers. It gets tough, I think, too, when you're trying to sort these pairings out, because it's really hard to put Girard and Brandstrom together as a defensive pairing. And not that they aren't good defenders, but it's easy to see how teams can physically abuse that pairing if you try and throw them together. So, I do wonder how that ends up shaking out.
I mean, I'm with you though, Eric. If Prater can get Eric Brandstrom to fit the PK system perfectly, then absolutely I will take him as that sort of fourth defender. Pairing him with Girard would certainly be difficult, as you say, Rudo. So maybe like a Manson would be better.
Yep.
If you want to throw Toews out there instead of Makar, maybe you could do that as well. But yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much in agreement with you as well there, Eric, about like Makar already gets a lot of time on the power play enough as it is, and I would rather have him on the power play than I would on the penalty kill. That gives you a chance to score, right? That's what you're looking for at the end of the day. So, and of course, too, when you look at Makar's past year and having to rely kind of more on this defensive game, and he kind of struggled towards the end of the. You could see there's something off for sure, right? And I think him playing on the PK was definitely part of that. So again, kind of limiting yourself and keeping your big guys healthy, for lack of a better term, will also help you going forward.
And Rudo, I'll add to it too. Like, coaches have a mind of their own too sometimes. And what I'm trying to say is, like, as you know, Mark Crawford was my coach in the American League, and he molded me into, if you're ever going to make the NHL, you're going to be a penalty killer, and this is where you're going to be. Because I told him I was a power play guy in college, and remember he was telling me, like, yeah, whatever, you know what I mean, like, you're not. And then he molds me into some, and I obviously become an NHLer. I'm in Los Angeles, and then I kill penalties there, and then I get traded to the Avs, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to get a bigger role. And then nope, Crawford, my old coach in the minors, that molded me into being a penalty killer in the NHL. I was like, no, you're not killing here. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? I got to get Joe out there. So I'm sorry, buddy, you're done. I never killed a frick. I don't think I had one shift in my career of the Avalanche as a penalty killer. So I thought how crazy it was. I mean, there's a lot of guys in his log jam, and they say, I got to get Joe out there. He needs his ice, And again, Joe was an excellent penalty killer. I'm not saying that, but as much as you're like, you think you want to back away from, like, I agree with Bruno. I know what you're saying. I agree with you. I mean, for me, I would never put Kale Makar out there, honestly, like on a penalty killing. But he's so good.
Yeah.
And those guys are so much better. Like Joe was so much better than me. You know what I mean? Even as a penalty killer. So it's like, you're going to end up putting them out. It's just the way it is.
All right, let's move on to the forward core. Start with the bottom six. I'm just going to list a bunch of dudes that can potentially play in the Avs bottom six this season. Joel Kiviranta, Parker Kelly, Nikolai Kovalenko, Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Logan O'Connor. That's already six. Only one of them plays center, which is where you get into Chris Wagner. Maybe Callum Ritchie makes the lineup out of camp. Is this a difficult decision for Colorado? Or is this bottom six easy enough to sort out for you guys?
It's such a loaded question just because it's such a loaded question because, as I kind of mentioned earlier, the Avs are cap crunch. They, you still have the question marks around Nichushkin and Landeskog, and that's not helping their case at all. And, when I look at Chris Wagner as a 4C, he's the only one that can play center. It's definitely not piquing my interest. That is for sure. Now, I know Ross Colton was also originally a winger and has kind of shifted now into the center role and has, I would say developed pretty good on that front. You could do the same with Parker Kelly or Joel Kiviranta as well, but I mean, that's just not very exciting. That's for sure. It is no Darren Helm or Andrew Cogliano. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go. No, you go.
I was just going to say the elephant in the room I'm leaving out is the Avs could go out and go get someone that plays 4C also. So
I was going to say the same thing. So you and me think the same, right? I mean, I hate to think that, but this is the time of day. This is the time of year where GMs are all fishing and nobody's in the office and nobody's in a rush to do anything. Unless they got RFAs to sign or ARB cases, or this is the quiet time. This is in the NHL. It really is. Guys don't get back to you, and there's no rush. There's no reason to. But with that said, I do believe, and I'd like to think that they're combing every roster right now. Who's gonna make the St. Louis Blues, or just to pick a team like. Out of their young guys, who's going to make a team, the team to make somebody expendable. And next thing you know, guys know that everybody around the league knows everybody's a roster, and then that they're stuck with this guy. Therefore, his value is not high in the sense that they're going to have to put him through waivers once rosters need to be available. So I do believe you fine comb the rosters right now. The Avs are doing this. C-Mac loves doing this. K-Mac. The pro scouts, you're just spending time when you're bored a little bit, and you're just seeing, you're like, boy, I think this guy's going to get through. I think this guy's going to have to go on waivers, or you go ahead of the parade because you know where you stand in the waiver line, and sometimes you're a little bit too low, and you have no chance if this guy gets through. So you go and try to make a trade with that team, but. I tell you, I don't feel comfortable with that. I said it earlier. I do believe that's where the waivers, and they've been good over the years, for the most part, the Avalanche at finding guys on waivers. And I do believe they're going to be digging into this in October. No offense to Wagner. I like Wagner. I like him, like I said the other day, as a 15th forward. I don't mind that. And you were talking about penalty killing, earlier too as well. Like, all depends. Like, do you want to just go out there knowing you're going to lose the face-off like we saw this past year and you're chasing? I mean, you're the one, Bruno, that made me realize it all the time that I started watching and I started laughing, because it's like, oh, my God, he's right. Like, it's not even an attempt to win it. It's just like, okay, we're going right into defense mode. So, again, I do believe, and I'd like to think they're going to go out. No offense to anybody that's there. And, again, like you said, is it Cal Ritchie? Is it, whatever it is, I do believe they're going to look – at a very long look to see if on the waiver wire they can be obviously a lot easier than the goaltending position like we talked
Yeah.
about, because you can just move Wags down to them. And, Wags probably going to clear waivers, and,
Yep.
then he's your guy. He's your veteran down there, and you can call him up, as we saw last year, and he's very helpful. And if he ends up playing 20, 25 games, that's awesome. Great, awesome. But I do believe they're going to be looking, they're going to be digging, and I think they'll be active on the waiver wire.
I would hope so, because I don't know, I'm looking at a list of free agents remaining. This was published by Daily Faceoff just today. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think any of these guys can play center. I'm just going to list out names. James Van Riemsdyk.
No.
Daniel Sprong.
No.
Tyler Johnson.
Used to, but
Kevin
he sucks
LeBanc.
now.
Mike
No.
Hoffman.
No.
Pacioretty. I don't even want Pacioretty.
Not as a 4C for sure.
Definitely not. Jacob Verana.
No.
Nick Cousins. Alex Nylander. Cal Clutterbuck. Alexander Barabanov. And Philip Zadina.
Yeah, none of those guys are going to play center for you. I think Lorentz is still out there. Even he's like only sort of
Yeah.
a center, but I would like Lorentz if the Avs were looking for a free agent. And then the only guy that actually plays center that's out there in free agency that would make sense as 4C is Chris Tierney, who is fine. I'd
Yeah.
be fine with it. It's better than Chris Wagner. Does it really make you that much better? No.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much a good description of that right there.
All right. I'm going to throw 3 names at you guys, and I need an answer of if they're going to be NHL regulars at the end of this season. Cal Ritchie, Nikolai Kovalenko, Yuri Inola. Are any of them, one of them, 2 of them, 3 of them NHL regulars at the end of this season?
Out of those, I'm most confident on Kovalenko.
Okay.
On that front, I'm most confident on Kovalenko. I could see Richie, but I don't know if they want to burn the first year of his ELC with that 9 game. They might give him 9 games, and
Sure.
that's probably that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are really the only 2, I think.
Yeah, I'll go Kovalenko. I think, God, I think by the end of the year, to answer your question, I think he'll be the guy that's got to be a regular. I think he's got an uphill battle because of, I think it would have been a lot easier for him, even though the circumstances of playoffs are a lot, it's crazy. It's so much more at stake. And I do believe the hype was there last year, and then the injury obviously derailed a little bit of things. And then, he gets in there sideways, as we know. He had a couple tough shifts here and there. And next thing you know, coaches don't have time to wait for you. Even though he's not a pup, he's not 20, not 18, right? What is he, 24 now? Whatever he is.
25 even, I think.
25,
25.
Yeah.
So
Turned 25 in October, yeah.
I do believe he's got an uphill battle in the sense that he's got to, get into camp and show that he is NHL ready and he's trustworthy, for the coaching staff to be put out there. So I do believe he's going to have to be battling a little bit. It might not be easy, but I do believe by the end of the year, out of those 3 names, I think he's the guy that would be a full in the top 12 forwards, for the Avalanche.
All right. I'm good with it. Let's move into that top 6 then. Look, I'm going to be straight up with you guys. There's an open spot in the Avs top 6, middle 6 on the wing that we just can't give you the information on because we don't know if Gabe Landeskog is going to be healthy. We don't know what happens in November when Val Nichushkin comes up to see if he can be reinstated or not. That spot is just going to be up in the air until there's more information about what the Avs are doing with Landeskog and Nichushkin and what's going on there. So I don't really have a ton to say about that spot. If you guys want to touch on it at all, you can. But
This might be a hot take, but I could see Kovalenko playing on that second wing. I could. I mean, just with how he was in the KHL and how
Sure.
great of a scorer that he was, it's definitely a possibility. He definitely came in, the circumstances weren't great when he made his debut, in the playoffs for the Avs. He only got a couple games, definitely was not his best showing, and I think that's what we all know, that's not what he is on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
So give him the benefit of the doubt. He definitely would have gotten time sooner, whether it was with the Eagles or it was with the Avs, if he wasn't injured with 2 minutes to go in their last playoff game.
Yeah.
So, as you said though, Eric, like he's gonna have to fight, he's gonna have to battle. But I think that he is going to be that sort of NHL regular. With that being said, I don't see him maybe starting on opening night on like the second line. I could see that going to O'Connor, just again, sort of this Bednar going to the guys that he knows and he trusts. Now, I hope that doesn't stay like that forever because Logan O'Connor is definitely not a second liner.
He is not.
And, maybe takes like five games or so. And then, those two would switch and then Kovalenko could play up on that second line. But, it's kind of a tough situation to be in. That is for sure. But I could see Kovalenko pulling that off. If there's anybody that can do it, it's him.
Yeah, he's I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes people think like Zach Hyman, he's only good because he plays with McDavid, and hey, listen, at some point there's parts of that is true. You know what I mean? Like, because you're playing with good players, but you got to be able to play with good players as well. You got to be able to play and to think the game, the way those guys do. They're elite players for a reason. They have elite speed. They have elite thinking. They're quick with their thought process. They can shoot a puck. You got to be able to complement that. And, Kovalenko, can he do that? I don't know. Time will tell. That'd be awesome, if he gets a shot, like Evan's saying, like a lot of people have been saying. So that'd be great, to see if he can do it. If I'm him, just look at the roster. Arturi Lehkonen was never – when you draft a guy like that, you're never going to say he's going to be a top 6 guy or whatever it is. But he's so goddamn good at everything he does, and he's so perfect at all the simple things that it makes him a compliment to those high-end guys because he does the little things right. So can Kovalenko do that, take a page out of Lehkonen's book? Maybe, he should. He should. I'm not saying they're similar players. I'm saying, but do what Lecky did, when how to climb up a roster, how to climb up a depth chart, how to climb up into a top 6. How do you do it? Is it because he's more talented? No, he's not. Lekkonen's not. He just does the little things right. And maybe a guy like Kovalenko is going to be a guy that develops that. I don't know. Time will tell him. Hopefully he gets a shot. And again, I'll say it again, make them make decisions.
Well, Lehkonen is a good lead into our next and last conversation here. The Avs top 6 beyond the one open slot. The centers are very obvious. McKinnon's the 1C, Middlestad's the 2C. There's no doubt about that. But then you have 3 wingers in Rantanen, Drouin, and Lehkonen. How do you organize those 3? Who do you put with McKinnon? Who do you put with Middlestad of the Avs' top 3 wingers?
Lehkonen and Middlestad were unstoppable in the playoffs. Like, that pairing was so fun to watch. And if they can get a consistent guy, on the wing with them, that'll just help their case even more. So I think that those two stay together, and I think that first line stays as Drouin, McKinnon, and I kind of touched on it earlier of how you don't really want to break up, the chemistry that's there.
Sure.
McKinnon and Drouin, of course, that's already there. Mikko Rantanen should kind of elevate from his game that was in the playoffs, and I think that's going to be a very good top line. And if I may, what's the word? I can't think of the word, but if we can have some fun, if everything goes right with Nichushkin and with Landeskog, this probably wouldn't happen until Game 1 of the playoffs next year. But then you have a top 6, top 7, top 8 of
that's
Drouin,
ridiculous.
McKinnon, Rantanen, Lehkonen, Middlestad, Landeskog, Nichushkin.
Yep.
Like, that's pretty damn good, if I say so myself. And then there's going to be some tough decisions on that front. Of course, everything has to go right. Have to say that with an asterisk because we just don't know. But regardless though, that top 6 is where the Avs are going to produce the most, no matter who's in there, right? No matter if the Nichushkin or Landeskog comes back, and they're going to be heavily relied on. Once again, it's just a matter of if they can get the help. Underneath them.
Yep.
I I'm a top heavy guy, right? I mean, I just I keep Mikko and Mac together, and Drew, and obviously the chemistry's there. And yeah, I mean, I think Middlestat's going to be outstanding this year. You're gonna, having a full year of being here, stable, not coming at the deadline, and just trying and find your footing. And like Bernard talked about, 15, 16, 17 games, whatever it was before playoffs, is how to learn their system and not be thinking out there, just kind of reacting. And I do believe you're going to see a different outcome from Middlestat in the sense it was a good outcome. I think you're going to see from his seasons in Buffalo, I think you're going to see a very complete player and a guy that's going to be able to put up some good numbers there with Lehkonen and company. I do believe that they're in good shape. Who knows? Time will tell with Gabe. And God, I hope, cross your fingers, that he can go back. And I think Val is just a total different conversation. And, that's a big question mark right there. But
let me play devil's advocate on Mikko here a little bit, because I think there's a real world where you're not getting the best out of Mikko Rantanen when you put him next to Nathan MacKinnon. And not because they aren't great together and all of that, but when you look at who Nathan MacKinnon is right now in the prime of his career, he's always been a volume shooter. He always takes a ton of shots. And after this last season, he's finishing at a rate that he's never finished before in his career. So you have Nathan MacKinnon as the driving force on that top line and the guy finishing pucks. And I get it. Mikko's an unbelievably good passer, and I don't want to take that away from him. But when Mikko is at his best, he's a 50-plus goal guy. He can score at a ridiculous rate when he's willing to use his shot. And if you put him with a Casey Middlestat, that's a guy who's not going to steal shots away from Mikko the way that a Nathan MacKinnon might. Lehkonen, good player. He's a guy that's going to do more of the dirty work. He can give you 20 goals a year. He's not going to bite into that place in Mikko's game. And that's where I see maybe Mikko makes more sense away from MacKinnon, as if you're doing that, you're telling him, hey, Mikko, you're the goal scorer on this line. Go use that ridiculous one-timer, use your sick backhand, stop doing the stupid chip shot that I hate, and actually shoot pucks. And you could end up with, all right, cool, you just stopped Nathan MacKinnon's line, now you have to go stop Mikko Rantanen if you're the other team's defense.
I think that's a great point. I think it's just a matter of, I guess, more so, in Landeskog's sake. If and when he comes back, I don't know if he slots in immediately on that first line on the left wing.
Definitely fair. Yeah.
And that's going to be the hardship, I guess, there on that front. Do you switch Lehkonen and Rantanen? I could maybe see that happening, but then again, I don't know. I'm not really 100% sure.
Let me ask you guys this then, because here's how I see that playing out. It's not necessarily Landeskog. It's not necessarily one of the guys that are already there. And I totally get apprehension about potentially putting a Kovalenko on a top line or Logan O'Connor, whoever it might be. But if you had to pick one guy on the Avalanche, whoever that winger is, to drag him to being as good as you could possibly get out of him, is it not Nathan MacKinnon?
No, I think it is. I think you're exactly right.
Maybe you let Nathan MacKinnon do the heavy lifting with whoever that sixth forward ends up being, and you let the Middlestat, Rantanen, and Lehkonen combo run free a little bit.
I mean, now that I'm thinking of it too, like, gosh, the other Evan Rao would be drooling at me saying this, but if Kovalenko can work on that first line, if he goes above and beyond.
Exactly what Eric said. If he plays exactly like Arturi Lehkonen does on that first line.
Yeah, I mean, because then that's a really good combination, because then you have Drew and MacKinnon, you still have that chemistry.
Yep.
And then you have Kovalenko doing the hard work there for him on that first line, getting along the boards, winning those puck battles. I think that's a good recipe for success. It's just a matter of, can Kovalenko do that immediately?
Probably not.
I don't think so. Maybe give him 30 games, this season. If he's really, really impressive, then you can.
Yeah.
But, come opening night, I definitely don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. Had to throw it out there, though.
But you're right. Nate, those guys, Joe, Peter, they make people around them better, and that's their job. It just comes natural. It makes them. Mario Lemieux made a guy named Warren Young score 50. Go look it up. Scored 50 right next to Moringham. But Moringham never came close to scoring 50 ever again when he went away and signed in Detroit. So, those guys make people better. And I'm not going to shy away from what I said earlier. You got to be able to play with those special players as well. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? We'll see. But you're right. You could have a special surprise, and all of a sudden Nate makes this guy, whoever it is it Govalenko, like you said, I say whoever, make special and look special. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. That's all we can do in July. Once camp starts up, we'll maybe get real looks at some of these lines and pairings and all of that. But we do have to wrap up for today. We appreciate all y'all coming out. Evan, thank you for coming on. If you want to shout out where people can find you, go for it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity to join you all here. So if I am the managing editor of Mile High Hockey through SB Nation. Been there for about, I think, 5 years now. This will be my fifth season, I think, going into this year. So you can just find us milehighhockey.com. You can find us on Twitter, or X, I guess, at Mile High Hockey. I know, right? I will still call it Twitter to the end of the day. At Mile High Hockey. We also have our own podcast that I will be talking to Rudo about joining on eventually. Maybe Eric, if you want to come on too. You can follow that at MHH_lab on Twitter as well. And we also have I lost my English. Never mind. But yeah, follow our podcast, follow our site. Grand old time, and making some good connections here with DNVR and you all over here. So again, thanks for having me, and go check us out.
On that note, we are wrapping up Thursday. Tomorrow, we're probably doing a big goalie show. So if you're a goalie person, you're going to want to tune in for tomorrow's show. I won't know what I'm talking about, but Eric and all the smart people will know. So hope you'll join us for that. We are out of here. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next one.
All city like the mayor.
All city like the mayor.